What's going on, folks? Welcome to the April 10th edition of the Go With The Flow NHL podcast. God damn it. I'm sorry, Kevin. Sorry. All right. Let's try it one more time. Okay. I really don't want
You can
editing.
do it, buddy. It's just talking. I
know. I just felt bad because I don't want you to do any editing. I just want you to be able to get it up. All right. I'm going.
No, that's fine. It's at the beginning. I can just trim it off. It's fine.
Okay. 3, 2. What's going on, folks? Welcome to the April 10th edition of the Go With The Flow NHL podcast, presented by Let Me Be Frank Sports. We've got a little bit of a playoff preview, NHL lottery, head coaching carousel episode for y'all, but I'm Nick Phillips, joined by my line mates, Kevin Bartman and Dan Merritt. Fellas, how are we this lovely evening?
Boys, it's that time of year again. It's time to get excited. I'm excited for playoff hockey. I'm also excited for the Masters. Not that we need to really talk about that because we're not a golfing podcast, but it's a good week in sports.
National championship just ended. So
Yep. Yeah, that was a fun game. Shit went down to the wire. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, honestly, this is probably the best time of the year. You have NHL playoffs, which are, it's probably as good as it gets in terms of sports. No one really cares about the NBA, but it's more sports. It leads you right into summer, good weather. You got some summer baseball coming up. You got the Masters coming up. It's just good vibes all around. So I'm thrilled. And with the recent news that we just heard, I'm a little extra amped. Nick's going to tell us a little bit about that, but
hell yeah.
Let's fucking go, boys. Honestly, I wouldn't call it Christmas coming early in April, but it was a very welcome surprise. Our Chicago Blackhawks, as most of y'all know by now, our team here, but obviously we cover the whole league. But our Blackhawks were projected, they have the 12th best lottery odds to get number one, 2.5% chance. And they moved up similarly to how Philadelphia moved up from 12 to 2. The year where they got Nolan Patrick right behind Nico Hischier. Number one, the Hawks moved up from 12 to 3. Division rival Colorado, who owned Ottawa's 2019 first rounder after Ottawa elected to hold on to number 4 last year, take Brady to Chuck, opted to let the Avs have this one. Of course, they had the best lottery odds, but Colorado falls from 1 to 4, and Jersey ends up number 1. The Rangers, number 2. Blackhawks number 3. Don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist, but you have 2 New York market area teams picking 1, 2, and then of course Chicago, who, as far as the NHL is concerned, it's like they get great ratings. But boys, I mean, whoever wants to jump into it first. Hughes, Hischier, and Hall are going to be in New Jersey together most likely. I think all signs point to Capo going to the Rangers, and then the I wouldn't say it falls off necessarily at all, but there's the Blackhawks are going to have a ton of options at number 3. And even though I'm sure Colorado fans are disappointed, they're going to get a great selection at 4. But before we do our playoff preview and maybe talk about, Coach Q, fucking lottery, that was quite an adrenaline rush, eh, boys? Like watching the cards go, and like especially when we knew we'd be in the top 3.
Yeah, I was. It's actually kind of funny. I game a lot, and I kind of had my phone on. I was streaming the lottery, and I was also gaming at the same time. And it was a perfect setup for me because it was so. Anyway, long story short, there was a tense moment going on in the game, and my buddy won. So I was like, yeah, and then 10 seconds after that, if that, was the news that the Hawks were going to go from 12 to 3. So it was like a double holy shit moment. Anyway. Extremely lucky. I'm really happy about it. Like we were saying kind of off air in the chat, you'd like that number 1 or that number 2, but going from 12 to 3 is pretty fucking awesome. And I'm kind of can't help but laugh that Colorado got fucked out of a number 1 spot. Man, if I was an LA Kings fan, I'd be really depressed too, because shit.
Fuck, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, 5th overall is none of these are going to be bad probably, But just considering how, they've sort of struggled this year. I mean, obviously the loser in all this is poor Ottawa again. But it's just depressing if you're a Kings fan. You've had a struggling year. You're kind of hoping that, rest, rejuvenation, and you get a really good draft pick. You're still going to get a good one probably, but it's just not as high up as you want. So yeah, as a Hawks fan, I'm really excited to see, what we can get and what, that player brings to the table. But yeah, New Jersey, that's going to be, that's going to be exciting for them to get Hughes. So probably, Kev, what are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. I went into watching the lottery show or whatever with very low expectations because, kind of like you guys harped on, it's kind of like it's a two-person prospect class after Jack Hughes and Kaku, or however you say his name. It's kind of gray. Like there's not really a standout third overall prospect, which is where the Hawks stand. So, not to say that you won't get a good player because if you're picking top 3, you're going to get a very talented player, but there's not like someone you can plug in right away and sort of, take you to the next level. Regardless, I do like that the Hawks have a lot of options now. You can pick up a solid player at the 3rd overall, whether it is you want to add to your pretty deep pool of prospects on the blue line, or you can add a winger that you can plug in right away in the top 6, which is a pretty intriguing option right now. Or we were talking about this off air, Stan Bowman could possibly package that 3rd overall pick with some other things and, maybe get a number 1 defenseman finally, or, do a number of things. So I think that the lack of a true top 3rd overall prospect gives us a lot of options in terms of what we can do with that pick and how we can attack the offseason. Because it's going to be a big offseason. It's going to be huge.
Overthink it. I mean, a lot of people are saying it's Hughes and Kako, but I mean, there's this Byron kid who's he's a huge defenseman. The left-handed D are a premium nowadays, and he projects to be a top, first pairing guy. So I mean, the Rangers overthink it. I mean, Kako could fall in the Blackhawks' lap, but I think the consensus obviously is going to be Hughes and Kako. But yeah, like you said, gives them a lot of options. I know Blackhawk fans might not want to hear this, but the other possibility is maybe this is how they jettison Seabrook. You could package Seabrook in number 3 and maybe back even while trading Seabrook. I know it's probably not the sexiest option, and they do have cap space. I mean, he's obviously overpaid, but they don't have to trade him. But I'm sure the front office would prefer to trade a guy like Anisimov or something first to give them a little more flexibility. But yeah, tons of options. I mean, they've been linked to even Panarin. So just to get a guy who you could possibly plug in your top 4D on an entry level contract or play in the top 6. I mean, Blackhawk fans know, hockey fans know just how many problems they've had with the salary cap and having to purge the roster multiple times, and to get an impact player who will most likely be at the NHL level next year for essentially pennies on the dollar is just the fucking gift of all gifts. And I know when we found out we were going to be in the top 3 and there was a little bit of that lull and they interviewed, Shero, Gordon, and Stan Bowman. I made a joke in the group chat. I said, I can't believe fucking Stan flew all the way out there to watch us fucking pick 12. But, oh, man, do I look like an idiot now. But I guess that's why you don't take things for granted or assume anything because, 2.5% chance to get number 1. They didn't get number 1, but, man, they moved a hell of a lot up. They moved way up, way more than we expected. So, yeah, that was huge. So yeah, a lot of options. They could get a top 6 guy, a top 6 forward via trade, D-man, use it, plug the guy in right away for cheap. Dump some contracts with it. I mean, a lot of flexibility for Stan Bowman, and kind of related to the Blackhawks. Speaking of Stan, it was his decision, ultimately to fire Joel Quenneville, and Coach Hugh landed on his feet in Florida. So boys, just moving into the coaching carousel. Quenneville goes to Florida. Sabres get rid of Housley. The Kings are looking to hire a new coach. Seems like Hitchcock probably won't be back in Edmonton as a coach, but reportedly is going to remain in the organization. So coaching carousel. Any just initial thoughts on there? Maybe start with Quenneville. Thoughts on the fit down there, reuniting with Uncle Dale Talon.
Yeah, kind of funny the reuniting. I mean, obviously, I think all three of us were in pretty much agreement when he got fired. We felt it was sort of not the right thing to do. Kind of an itchy trigger finger from Bowman. I obviously personally would love to have Q back, on our team, but obviously the past is in the past. So you knew he was going to get picked up somewhere. And now you got the Talon Quenneville thing. And then on top of it, you've got Panarin and Bobrovsky, who are already rumored to be going to Florida before Q was even mentioned as the Florida coach. And now you've got, the Dale Talon Quenneville connection, which leads to the Q and Panarin connection. And if that's the case, that's going to be pretty fucking awesome. If I was a Panthers fan, I'd be starting to get pretty excited. I'd enjoy these playoffs. Obviously you have no stake, just like us Chicago fans, but, I'd be excited what, could be quite a fun offseason for them. I'd already be excited just based off of Q being head coach. So we'll miss you, Q, but glad you're back in the league. And, I don't know, hopefully when the Hawks play the Panthers, the refs piss you off and, I don't know, you grab your fucking nuts or something in front of all the Hawks fans. I don't know. So, anyway, I miss that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to see him coaching another team now. It's a reality. We all knew it was going to come at some point, but now that it's happened, it's pretty tough to look at. But I sort of touched on this, and I wrote about this earlier in the week. And, I mean, obviously it's a really good move for Florida because you're getting one of the best hockey coaches of all time. And it sets them up for this offseason perfectly because they do have a good little foundation of young talent there with Barkov, Aaron Ekblad. He's kind of been struggling a little bit. He's sort of tapered off after his rookie year, but he's still a damn good defenseman nonetheless. Then they have some really nice veteran pieces, and they have some money to play with this offseason, so they can really go out there and they can spend on a guy like Panarin, Bobrovsky, maybe even both. I don't know how the money would work there, but it's definitely possible. So not only can Q elevate the play of the current group they have, but he could also be used to lure in, better players. And that would also contribute to making them a better team and getting them back to the playoffs, where I think, it's always fun to watch these, up and coming teams make the playoffs. And seeing Q be successful again would be awesome. I'm obviously still a huge fan of Quenneville, so wishing the best for him. And I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch, in the next few years.
Yeah, Kev, just kind of on that real quick, you said, still a fan of Q. I don't think I'll never not be a fan of Q, even though, now that he led us to success, first cup in 49 years and then 2 to follow with all the success that he had with the guys that he had. Like you're saying, I think, like you, I wish nothing but the best for him. If he eventually moves on somewhere else as well, I'll be, kind of rooting him on unless it's, I don't know, St. Louis or something.
Yeah,
that was my nightmare when we first fired him.
It was St. Louis.
Keeping.
Kev, your audio was fucked anyway.
Yeah, you got
it. Can you hear me?
What's the time? I think we're around 13 minutes.
13:30 is what we're at. Just start your. First off, on my screen it says you're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
But it was saying you were talking. Like, could you hear him, Nick?
Yeah, I'm going. Bleh, 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 bleh.
Yeah. Okay. Oh.
God damn it.
Okay, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
You keep going. You keep showing a mute.
I'm not muted right now.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Leave it.
You're good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just restart.
It. Okay.
What
time were we at?
13:30 was when we decided to cut it.
Yeah.
13:30. Okay. What was I talking about? It was like the St. Louis Blues thing.
Yeah,
I said. I said the only time I wouldn't really root for Q is if he went to St. Louis, and then that's when you were talking about where he was kind of first rumored to be going.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. All right. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, that would have been my personal nightmare. I mean, I think if I recall correctly, the Blues were like the first sort of rumored destination for Quenneville right when we let him go because they had, they obviously don't have a long-term answer at head coach, or they didn't, and he's an obvious upgrade. So, like, oh God, if he jumped over to the Blues, I'd probably throw myself out the window. But thank God it didn't happen.
Yeah, no doubt. Hard to disagree with anything you guys have said about with Q. I mean, I think Kevin, you alluded to it with Florida having a boatload of cap space, no state income tax, been linked. We've talked about it on the show before. They've been linked to Bobrovsky and Panarin, the Columbus duo, who's in the playoffs right now. But it seems like those guys are probably both poised to leave. And Panarin obviously has that familiarity with Quenneville. So, I mean, he was linked there even before this coaching announcement. But correct me if I'm wrong, but just on the coaching front as well, isn't that kind of crazy that I believe this is going to be Jack Eichel's third NHL coach, whoever they hire out in Buffalo? Because I think he started with Disco Dan, and then Housley came in after they shit canned Disco Dan, and now they fire Housley after they got off to that pretty heavy start there. They did a great job, and then they just totally fell off a cliff the last couple of months. But I mean, Eichel's a great player. I mean, but it's wild that he's still so young, and he's going to be on a third coach. So, man, I don't really know what the fuck's up in the water out there in Buffalo. But I mean, it's just, the Bills had the longest NFL playoff drought, and then when they played the Jaguars in the playoffs, they broke it. Now with Carolina making the playoffs, it's a wild card this year. Buffalo now owns the longest playoff drought in the National Hockey League. Boys, thoughts on we got a little bit of 2 cents in on Q, but the Buffalo situation is so interesting to me with all that young talent they have. And, Housley was obviously one of the better American defensemen of all time. And you just look at statistics. I mean, he really is. And, I mean, they had Darlene come in, and, he's a defenseman. You think, yeah, who knows, man? This is crazy.
Yeah, it's also worth pointing out, actually, if Hitchcock doesn't return, it'll be McDavid's third coach as well, because he started with McClellan, I believe, and then Hitchcock, and now who knows. But, yeah, I don't know. They were an absolute wagon, and then they sort of fell off the map, and like you said, now they hold the longest playoff drought. So, another disappointing season in Buffalo. It'll be interesting to see who they pick up. I don't really have too much to say on it other than, I kind of feel for Housley. Like you said, Nick, he was a hell of a defenseman, Hall of Famer. It's just interesting. It seems as though I always have like that Mystery Alaska quote in my head, but it's flip-flopped in this case where for gosh sake, Russell Crowe's wife is like, why do you think, players, when they became coaches, they like coaching better? And he says, well, it's because they couldn't play. And this is kind of the opposite. Phil Housley could play. It just doesn't seem like he's that good of a coach. Gretzky was kind of the same way. It seems like there's a translation that part is missing there for them. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say on it. Kev, what's your take on it?
Yeah, and I read that the sort of emerging candidate to take over in Buffalo is Todd McClellan. So that's not – I mean, he's not a bad coach. He's had success in various places, but that's not a home run hire by any means. I feel like with all that, young talent they have there, and they're obviously very – we saw at the beginning of the year, they have the potential to be an elite team in this league, but – for whatever reason, they fell off a cliff. And I feel like Todd McClellan just isn't, while he's a good coach, he's a serviceable coach. I find it hard to believe he's going to be the one to sort of, make that team play to their full potential and, sort of get them to where they should be. I just really don't. I feel like that they're seeing as other teams. Here's what I think. So there's like a little bit of a trend going on that, organizations are starting to think outside of the box in terms of hiring coaches. Like, the Hawks, they dipped into the AHL. While that's not like a foreign concept, but it's new.
He's young. He's fucking young.
Yeah, he's what, 33?
Yeah,
then you got the Stars and the Rangers. They dipped into the NCAA for their newest head coach. And then I was listening to Darren Dreger, and he was saying that it's possible that some teams could give looks to like the Swedish junior national team head coach or something like that. So I feel like going that way instead of sort of using a recycled head coach like Todd McClellan is a better option. It's a roll of the dice, but I think, high risk, high reward. And I feel like with such a young group, using a coach like Todd McClellan, I just don't think you're going to get the results you want, as opposed to getting someone that's more tailored to this specific group.
I've seen too that McClellan interviewed with the Kings as well, so I don't know if I wouldn't go as far as saying maybe there's a bidding war going on there or anything, but feels like he is going. There's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of attention around his name, so it seems like although there have been some outside the box hires, like you mentioned, with Quinn and Montgomery going to the Rangers and the Stars, respectively. It still seems like there are some old school GMs, or whatever, just looking at a guy like McClellan. I mean, McClellan got the Oilers to the playoffs. I mean, that's an accomplishment, but at the same time, they never went to a Stanley Cup in San Jose when they had all those. I mean, they have a great forward group now, but I mean, the guys that you're used to talking about as far as San Jose's forwards, like the Marlows, the Pavelskis, the Thorntons, they were all in their prime when he was there, and he never got into the Cup. I mean, they got swept by the Hawks. I mean, the Hawks were obviously a juggernaut, but I mean, he never even got, it took DeBoer going in there to get them that far. And then after the Edmonton had that crazy run where they, went to the second round, Game 7 against Anaheim, then they kind of resorted back to normal. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think McClellan can fix the fucking Kings. I don't think the Kings need a lot more than just a new coach, but
I think he's just like a real good players coach. You know what I mean? Like his players like him, and I think that could be something that goes a long way instead of having to build a completely new relationship. Whether you're dipping, Kev, like you said, into the NCAA, or you're going, across the pond and picking someone else up. Todd McClellan, it's a name that people in the hockey world are familiar with. And so if that's the case, that might be why, that's attractive is, he seems like he's sort of a player's coach. If he's a good guy. He's approachable. He worked with a lot of young talent in Edmonton. So who knows? Maybe that's why his name is getting thrown around. But for the most part, yeah, I agree with both you guys on, in terms of Buffalo, I don't know if McClellan's going to be the one to fix it up. And, in LA, they need a lot more than just a head coach. But, yeah.
I say we jump into some playoff previews. What do you say, boys?
I like it. Let's go.
Yeah. Maybe what conference do we want to maybe we'll just run through kind of the first round matchups of each conference. Maybe we'll just knock them all out by conference. So I don't know whatever playoff series you guys are most excited to talk about, Kevin or Dan, you just pick the series, and then we'll just run through whatever conference that's
okay.
in.
Well, the one that I'm most excited for is Boston-Toronto, I think.
All right. We're going to go east.
Yeah, we'll go east. I mean, okay, like Winnipeg-St. Louis, that's going to be an absolute bloodbath, and I'm excited for that. But I'm excited for the Leafs to be back in the playoffs. This is a rematch from 2013. We all know Boston pulled something out of their ass and, came back from a 4-goal deficit, I believe, and then won in overtime in Game 7. As far as this matchup goes, I like Boston for it a little bit more. I've got Boston in 6. I think, in terms of offensive talent, I think both teams are really, really solid. Obviously, you got a lot of young talent in Toronto with, Nylander and Matthews, and then you've got Tavares now. And then on Boston's side, you've got Pasternak, and then you've got Marchand, who hit 100 points this year. Patrice Bergeron just keeps on getting better every year, it seems, even though he's getting older. And then on the back end, I think I like Tuukka Rask a little bit more than Freddie Anderson. Like, since we saw Freddie with the Ducks, the Hawks sort of struggled with him in that 15 series at the beginning, and then they sort of figured him out, and he was kind of a sieve. Rask is a proven champion. He's won a cup. He put up a hell of a fight against us in 13. So I think, I'm going to give Rask the edge there. So, I just think Boston. To be honest, I think if Tampa doesn't win the cup, it's going to be Boston. And that's also my second round matchup, Tampa and Boston. But anyway, we'll get to that one later. What do you guys think?
Gav, go ahead.
So I guess in terms of just Boston, Toronto, like it's Toronto pretty much ever since like the first month and a half or 2 months of the years, like or a year, sorry, they've been really inconsistent and at times, they've been exploding for like 7 goal games or whatever it is, but then other times they play like they have absolutely no idea what they're doing. And I just feel like that type of inconsistency, makes me nervous if I were to gamble on a team hypothetically or just to make a pick. And Boston, on the other end, is just a more consistent team. I feel like it's a safer bet. They're more experienced, obviously, even though we've seen this matchup a number of times in the regular season and the playoffs. And it's just goaltending. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of playoff goaltending. Tuukka Rask has been there, like Dan said. Freddie Anderson has been there, but Tuukka Rask, I think, is just clearly better. I don't think that's anything too controversial. And then it's just the star power that the Bruins have, even though Toronto is also very fueled by star power. I just like what Boston brings to the table. I think they're a more cohesive unit, in that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I feel like they play well together, in addition to being a very talented group individually, whereas Toronto just has a lot of individual talent, but at times they don't really play well together and they struggle and they don't get a lot out of their guys when they need it. And I just really don't think that bodes well for a playoff series. So I would take Boston in that series as well.
Nick, you're talking with your mute on.
All right. Do we want to edit that little lull?
Keep it going.
All right. Sorry, boys. First thing to note here is Boston has home ice. TD Garden, not a easy place to play. Gets a little ruckus there. But, yeah, I mean, Boston, that's a huge advantage, right? I mean, this is what happens in the playoffs. You play at home. You get your home crowd behind you. It's a tough environment. Obviously, the last change is going to be incredibly important. And when Toronto's entire game plan is probably going to be about playing fast and putting up offensive numbers, for Boston to be able to throw Bergeron out for any faceoff they want, knowing exactly what matchup is going to be, is a huge advantage for Bruce Cassidy behind the bench, having home ice. So, yeah, I mean, that Bergeron line this year has been buzzing. Marchand's been having a great year. I think, like Kevin said, Tuukka Rask is a more playoff-proven goaltender than Freddie Anderson. I don't know how you could possibly argue that, considering, Freddie the 1 year with Anaheim going to Game 7 of the conference finals, but obviously he's got lit up a couple times. And that's not necessarily his fault, but, the last couple years, it's the third year in a row the Leafs have been in the playoffs, and, it's maybe not always his fault, but, because of what they've put out in front of him on defense. But I like Jake Muzzin. I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's a decent top 4 defenseman, but the Leafs just did not add that impact number 1 guy yet. I mean, obviously Riley's having a great year, but I mean, this forward group that Boston has with DeBrusk and Pasternak and Marchand and Bergeron, and now having Kevin Miller out for the playoffs, they just got news about that, is rough. But, man, home ice advantage, all that considered, I think I'm going to go with Dano. I think Toronto's talented here. Kevin, what was your pick again? I'm going to take Boston at 6. I'm sorry if I missed it.
I said Boston. I didn't say a number, but I'll say I'd probably say 6, not to be a sheep. But
I was thinking, I'm almost thinking 5, but I'm going to go 6 just to kind of like, I mean, this thing could go 7, obviously, but I'm all in on Boston on this. I just don't think I think Toronto improved their D. I don't think it is improved enough, and I trust Rask more than Freddie, and I think being able to put Bergeron out there for those big face-offs against those lethal forwards is a major advantage for Cassidy, and it'd be a real shame to see Mike Babcock go out in the first round again. I mean, you just absolutely hate to see that.
But I forgot to add this real quick too. I think if Toronto's going to have success in this series, they got to steal one. And I mean that goes for a lot of series. But
they literally have to win one on the road.
They definitely. Well, yeah, duh. But you know what I mean. Like, I mean, What I meant more specifically was winning one on the road in the first 2 games.
Oh yeah,
not Game 5 or Game 7. Well, I mean, obviously they would have to win Game 7, but yeah, the first 2 games they need to go back to Toronto tied 1-1.
They need a win, in my opinion, that just like sucks the life out of Boston. Like that's kind of a tall order because it's like obviously you just want to win and get out of there, but like I feel like they don't have home ice, so they're gonna need just a big fucking win in the first 2 games. Just suck the life out of them. Like do a nice 3 overtime classic. And also, I was thinking about this. I think there's an element to the Maple Leafs, whereas like if they can get past the first round, I feel like that would allow them to get on a roll and they could be like a really dangerous team going
but here's
forward.
the problem, Kevin.
Yeah, but they would play Tampa.
I was just gonna say.
The thing is, though, like
no
I
fucking
that,
way.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not about to pick them over the Lightning, but like I feel like the Leafs are a team that once they can get going and they get on a roll, like we saw at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, no.
They were probably the most potent offense for a time. Like it could be really dangerous for the
I
Lightning.
just don't like the fact that I wouldn't say backed themselves into the playoffs, but they're not playing their best hockey right now. It's a fresh start, right? It's a fresh start. I mean, points don't.
New season.
Yeah, new season. So cliche, but yeah, but let's talk about that other side of the bracket that Dan alluded to. I'll just put it this way. I think we all know who everyone's picking in this series, but can Columbus win a game in this series? Will they win a game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll let you guys take it.
Well, I mean,
I'm going to say Lightning in 5. I mean, we can I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but yeah, I mean, they're just fuck. I don't know. I think everyone kind of knows what's going on with Tampa this year, but Tampa's got those. I'll let someone else go first, but yeah, I mean,
I think I've got Tampa in 5. I mean, Columbus showed last year that they can catch somebody sleeping if they're not ready. They went up 2-0 against Washington. Unfortunately for them, they couldn't complete it. I think if Columbus is going to be any sort of successful, they're going to need Panarin, and he's sort of been a little off his game. I forget what the stat was exactly, but I think it was like 3 goals in quite a few games, which is unlike him. And then it's also going to come down to Bobrovsky. I think Bobrovsky's kind of the X factor for Columbus in that series. If he can just play out of his mind, and then Duchesne, Panarin can, squeak a couple past Vasilevsky, then they're going to have some success. But I mean, if you obviously on paper, if you just look at it, there's no way. I'm looking at the NHL app right now, and it's like the key factors, so like goals per, goals against, and it's Columbus leads in none of them. So I think it's really down to Bobrovsky. If he steps up to the plate, they might have some success, might get a couple wins, make the series go a little bit longer. But other than that, I think this is clear-cut Tampa Bay's series.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. To answer your question about can Columbus steal a game? Yeah, I mean, they have not a lot, but they have enough sort of firepower and star power to steal a game. Obviously, they have Panarin, who's really good, Matt Duchesne. Cam Atkinson is no slouch. I feel like he slept on quite a bit, even though he's like a 30-goal scorer on a consistent basis. He scored 40 goals this year, actually. So, yeah, I mean, it's also really hard to sweep a team in the playoffs. These are all really good hockey teams we're talking about. So, given the fact that they'll get at least 2 games on their home ice, it's really hard to say that they won't win at least 1 game this series. But then again, like Tampa is just so heavily favored, and they just so incredibly outmatch them. So, yeah, Tampa probably in 5 is a safe pick. I hate that I've matched Dan's picks 2 for 2 so far. So, but don't worry. I can guarantee that, like, if we pick Stanley Cup winners, it will not be mine. So that's a guarantee.
Bartman, not an elite gambler, self-proclaimed mush, right? So
for hockey, at least, yeah, but and a lot of other things, but yeah, you get the point.
I'll say this about Columbus. I think they're gonna lose in 5, and I hate to do that, but this just seems like one of those where Tampa's buzzing. They go up 3-0. Columbus wins one at home, then Tampa just kind of finishes the deal. You know what I mean? But here's the thing: Tampa is so good, but Dan kind of expanded upon it. But Columbus, for being the worst seed in the East, as the last team in, I mean, they're one of the most talented bottom seeds we've seen. I mean, think of some of the fucking names on this team. You have Ryan Dzingel, Matt Duchene, Cam Atkinson, Artemi Panarin, Sergei Bobrovsky, Seth Jones, Zach Werenski. I think it's going to be fucking competitive. I think Tampa's going to win in 5, but I don't think this is going to be like a waxing. I don't think Tampa's going to win every game, 4-1, 3-0, or just completely light them up 6-2. I think these are going to be close games. I think a couple of them might go to overtime. Now, I could look really stupid here. I mean, Tampa won 62 teams, and they've been the best team from start to finish. But man, Columbus has a lot of fucking talent on that roster, and but so I think it could be competitive. But yeah, I mean, if Bobrovsky, kind of becomes a mental midget again, yeah, I mean, with the amount of talent that Tampa Bay has up front, we don't really need to go through the names, but I mean, just to name a few, right? Point, Stamkos, Kucherov, shit could get real bad for Bobrovsky real fast if he kind of mentally implodes. But yeah, I mean, Tampa's obviously the best, and it's really easy to just who the hell is going to be Tampa? Let's just pick them in 5. But I think it's going to be competitive. I think Columbus takes one at home, but I think at the end of the day, the better team wins, and Columbus buries them. So let's shift it over. We got 2 more series in the East to cover. Then we'll go westbound. But maybe we'll go with the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Washington Capitals, winners again of the Metropolitan Division, and they will be facing the Carolina Hurricanes. So Carolina's been kind of a feel-good story. I think there's a lot of old men that want to see a sweep here, so we don't get any ridiculous celebrations from Carolina. But I'll just kind of give an idea of where I'm going with this. I think Carolina's been a great story. I do not see Mrazek holding up against this Washington forward group, but I will pass along to either Kevin or Dan, whoever is most passionate, to jump right into this one.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. Goaltending, it's hard to bet against Holtby. He's sort of proven it his whole career, and now especially with the Cup. I just think that it's a little bit of a mismatch. What do I have? I think I have this in 6. Also, Kevin, by the way, I forgot. I have Boston, Toronto in 7, just to clear that up. So we're not completely exactly alike. But anyway, goals for goes in favor of Washington. Goals against is in favor of Carolina. Likewise, power play is better for Washington. Penalty kill is a little bit better for Carolina. But in terms of, star-studded cast, Ovechkin, Oshie, Backstrom, you got Carlson on the back end and all them. And then Verizon Center is a hell of a place to, it's pretty tough for visiting teams to come in and win games. So I'm going to take Washington in 6. I think Carolina can get 2 at home. They're building with all the, Nick, you alluded to all the post-game celebration stuff. That's going to be a tough building to play in now, because those fans are going to be amped up because it's playoff hockey, and they get a little show afterwards, assuming that they continue to do so. So I think that's going to be a tough building for Washington to win in. I think they will be able to. But this is one of those series where, it could be 2-2 going back to Washington for Game 5. That's kind of what I'm thinking this one's going to be. And then, I don't know, Washington, I guess, will steal one, in Game 6 or in Game 5, I should say. Holy fuck, in Game 6, Dan. Jeez, get it. Anyway, somebody else go. I'm a mess right now, apparently.
Here's what I like about this series. You got 2 head coaches that have never coached in the playoffs before as head coaches. So I think there's an element to that where we know it's quite obvious that playing in the playoffs is a different animal, and that goes the same for coaching. I don't know shit about coaching, obviously, but I think it's going to be really unique to be able to see two first-year coaches or two first-time playoff head coaches go at it. Obviously, Washington, I don't know if it's obvious, but Washington is, I think, by a significant margin, a more talented group, more experienced group. They obviously just won the cup. They're largely the same team. But something tells me Carolina just like they have that it factor. They have that little, gusto. They have some sauce. And like they just play so passionately. And I want to see that stadium too in the playoffs. It's going to be insane. I just want to see them win one game, let alone the series. But I just want to see what they do to celebrate a playoff win. Like
if they were down like 3-0 or some shit and pulled out some theatrics, I'd ask, go fuck yourselves. Like, you're down 3-0. Like,
I don't know, but at the same time, what if they do something just absolutely fucked up and then they come back and win it in 7? Like, I can't even, like, a fucking giraffe walks out on the ice and just starts, like,
fucking giraffe.
I have no idea. Like,
all right.
My mind's racing right now, but what could possibly happen? But it's just like
Carolina's been great the second half. I mean, they've been awesome. Carolina's been awesome.
They have.
Yeah, they have. But
I think there is something to like just a team, like a unit that's so closely like bonded, and it just seems like they're all so all in together. Like that's obviously not something I know firsthand because I'm not in the locker room. I'm just an outsider, just a fan, and it's not something you can measure. But like, God, that sounds so cliche. But like it just feels like there's something there, and I don't know if they can necessarily win the series, but I feel like they can make it a series and make it a lot closer than people will expect.
Washington in 5, folks. Washington in 5. The Caps are here to burn down their village. I'm going to tell you that I think Carolina's been getting some, and this is my opinion about the Islanders too. I think they're getting some fluky goaltending, and I think when the Islanders and the Hurricanes are locked in a 7-game series and you're not jumping around, teams aren't playing, necessarily back-to-backs anymore or facing a backup goalie or, they're in a tough stretch or something. I mean, when the Islanders and the Canes have to go against these Washington and these Pittsburgh forwards for potentially 7 straight games, I just do not trust Mrazek or Grice to hold up. I just don't. I've seen these guys in the playoffs, at least through the first round. I mean, Washington obviously got over the hump last year, but I mean, we've seen Washington have a few heartbreakers. Like, I just don't see Washington or Pittsburgh in the first round losing to one of these goalies. I just fucking don't. And I do agree with Kevin. Carolina, they've got some sauce. They've got some swagger. They're a tight-knit group. A lot of synergy going on there. Not to get too corporate with it. But, they're playing well. But, and the other thing, too, that's weird to me about Carolina is they've got a lot of really good defensemen. Like, they've got a lot of talent on that blue line. But I don't know if they necessarily, like, have an anchor. Like, who do they throw out when Oshie, Backstrom, and Ovechkin are on the ice? Do they really have a true shutdown pair that can really hold them back? And same thing with the Islanders, too. I mean, my stance is pretty much the same with this series and the other series that I think Carolina's got a chance to push it to like 6, whereas I think Pittsburgh will take care of the Isles in about 5. But I just don't trust Mrazek to stand on his head in a 7-game series. I just don't. And maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I'm going to go Caption 5.
Well, that's fair. No, that's fair. And then moving along to the other series, you alluded to it. I, too, have Pittsburgh winning this. I just think that, the killer instinct of Malkin and Crosby and Kessel and, Sullivan behind the bench, they went back-to-back. Obviously they're going to be looking for their 3rd in 4 years, which would be ridiculous. I think that killer instinct is just going to be too much for the Islanders to handle. I think Murray's going to be solid in net as well. And like you said, I don't know how, and we've seen it every year. Pittsburgh and Washington have taken each other out because they're so comparable with their offensive power, with their defensive, with their defense, with their goaltending. And that makes complete sense. And that's why I just don't, I think Carolina, Nick, you said it. I think Carolina's got a little bit better of a chance of making it a series. I think this one with Pittsburgh is just cut and dry, like Pittsburgh all the way kind of thing. So yeah, Kev, what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the Islanders they're like near the bottom third of the league in scoring as a team per game, and I feel like this might be a hot take, but you're gonna have to score a lot if you want to win games in the playoffs. I don't think I'm telling any tales out of school with that one, but and then especially when you pair that with the fact they're playing the Penguins, who are just like I don't know what else you could say, but they're just the Penguins. Like they're an incredibly talented team. Uh, they have a healthy Chris Letang. They've been injured a little bit during the course of the season, but they've had guys that have been able to sort of rest up and get ready for the playoffs. And I mean, it's just impossible to bet against Sidney Crosby at this point. He's unbelievable. He's the best player in the league. It's just like I don't even think it's gonna be that fun of a series to watch. Like the Islanders are going to get murdered, and it's just going to be sad for every miserable person on Long Island. But yeah, I could see a sweep. I pointed out earlier that it's really hard to sweep in the playoffs, but like this is the one series where I can see a sweep. Like it's just the Islanders are so incredibly overmatched in my opinion.
Yeah, you'd think Barzal would be leading this team in scoring. He's not even. I mean, he's having an okay year, but I mean, he's not even close to replicating last year. They're just kind of scoring enough by committee and to get by and getting some really fluky goaltending. And man, you need your best players to step up in the playoffs and just carry you, right? And Pittsburgh's got four. I mean, I'd say the three highest performing forwards this year are going to be obviously Crosby, Malkin, and Gensel. But I mean, you got Kessel too, who's no one to scoff at. So yeah, I just don't see Thomas Greiss. He's got to make a believer on me. He's having a great year. This has been a great story. The one factor here is it's Barry Trotz behind the bench. He's a great coach. But I think at the end of the day, the more talented team is gonna rise to the occasion here. So
and then not to mention Matt Murray is an incredible playoff goaltender. As I'm looking right now, he is the 13th best career playoff save percentage at .923. So he is just unreal when the lights are on. And that doesn't bode well for a team that already struggles to score in bunches as it is. So it's just like, yeah, this is going to be a quick one.
For sure. Going to the West. Any series either you'd like to kick it off with? We'll just stick in that mini bracket. Whatever series we do, we'll do the preview of whoever they play the winner of, essentially. But is there any series? I think these are all really fucking interesting. I think there's a couple of those we talked about. I think the Western matchups are actually more interesting personally. But is there any specific one y'all want to start with?
Excuse me. For me, it's going to be Winnipeg and St. Louis.
Okay.
I alluded to it earlier when I was talking about Boston and Toronto. Just an absolute bloodbath, I think. Two big, strong teams going at it, big defensemen, tough buildings to play in. Winnipeg's, with the whiteout and Scott trade or whatever the heck it's called now. That's a tough building to play in and get road victories. As far as I'm concerned, I've got St. Louis winning this one. I think, St. Louis looked really bad at the beginning of this year, and then some switch was flipped, and they really haven't looked back since. And I think it's going to be more of the same. Winnipeg has sort of kind of limped for a while into the playoffs. And as far as like their scoring goes, Patrick Laine just hasn't. He has like 3 goals, I think, in like 20 some odd games. And they're definitely going to need him. So as far as I'm concerned, I think the offense for St. Louis has got a little bit of an edge with Tarasenko leading the charge. I think the defense is a little bit better. The thing it's going to come down to is it's going to be goaltending. It's going to be Hellebuck and, oh boy, somebody help me with the kid's name on St. Louis.
Bennington.
Thank you. Yeah.
Completely
You know, he's
unproven at this time.
yeah, completely unproven. But you know, I think
Well, the Blues have never, ever, ever, ever had goaltending issues in the playoffs, right?
no, never, not at all. But you know, Matt Murray was an unknown too going into their first, and he
Cam Ward way back when, right? It's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even Scott Darling, you know, he didn't play the whole playoffs, but he came in and he got the job done. So I think, you know, I'm hoping for that kid that he can keep that up. He seems like an absolute, just cool as a cucumber kind of character, just doesn't get rattled. And he's definitely going to need that when he goes in with Winnipeg. As far as games go, do I have it going in 7? I do have it in 6. I have it in 6. That means that's going to be a road victory for St. Louis. I might reconsider that to going all the way to 7, just because it's going to be one of those grueling series. But yeah, Kev, what do you got for this series?
Yeah, I got St. Louis winning this series. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Dan. Like, I'm kind of on the fence about whether I should go 6 or 7, because I think, like you said, Winnipeg has struggled mightily down the stretch. You know, Patrick Laine has, I think, after the All-Star break, he has 5 goals. He's been pretty much non-existent, and just the whole team is sort of a mess, and they're just not who we thought they were going into this year, and who we thought we could expect to see going to the playoffs. And then on the other side, the Blues have just been maybe the best team in hockey in the last couple of months, just going down the stretch. And you know, as much of a proponent as I am of good goaltending, I'm also a proponent of, you know, you got to get hot at the right time. And that's pretty much exactly what the Blues are right now. That's the perfect way to describe them. And then in terms of Jordan Binnington, he's ice cold. Like, he just looks like he doesn't care. He just goes out there and just like has whitewashes teams left and right, and he just oh god, he just has that look to him. He looks like a Bond villain.
It's like he shows up, he wakes up, he goes to the rink, gets a pregame meal, gets dressed, fucking blanks a team, gets a shutout, and goes home and goes to bed.
Exactly,
like no questions asked.
Yes, he just has that look to him, like he doesn't care. He's just going to show up and not let you score a goal, leave, and then just like whatever.
Absolutely. So
and
for him,
I knew the guy was
go ahead, Kev.
That whole, do I look nervous? Well, there's your answer.
Yeah. To me, he's going to be the X factor of the series.
He's that one guy that he was on no one's radar going into this year pretty much, and then now he just shows up all of a sudden. He's this stud, and he has an opportunity to just be like, I don't know about a legend, but like he can make a huge name for himself going to the playoffs. And then also, I guess the main reason why it's kind of hard to go against, or not go against, but I think this goes anywhere other than 7 games, is just that it's so hard to win in Winnipeg. They have an incredible home record. I think it's like, what is it, like fucking 25-9 and change or something like that. Like, they're a really good home team, and Winnipeg, that barn is just crazy in the playoffs, as we alluded to. So I would say St. Louis in 7. And just a little hint, that is not the last you're going to see of St. Louis in this year's playoffs. More to come.
Wow. How about that? I'm going Winnipeg in 7, y'all. I gotta change it up on us. I think we've been kind of a little bit on the same page too much. But I think the genesis for my pick here is that Hellebuck's had a playoff under his belt. Winnipeg's got the home ice. The Laine struggles really, really concern me, but at the same time, you still got Ehlers, you know, you still got Wheeler, you still got Scheifele. I know everyone's kind of looking at the way they're playing and Laine struggling, but yeah, Winnipeg's a team. I mean, these two teams are so similar in a sense that they've both got speed in certain areas. They both got guys that can play stay-at-home roles, offensive-minded roles on the blue line. 2 young, well-performing goaltenders, some real firepower up front. I mean, when you look at the Blues, and you know, obviously you've got Tarasenko, but I just expect more out of Hellebuck, and I just expect more. I just think the Winnipeg has more top-line forwards, I think, at the end of the day. And I think the Blues right now are collectively playing better overall as a group, but this is a young, unproven goaltender. The Jets have home ice. They went pretty deep last year. They went to the conference finals last year. I know they haven't been playing their best hockey, and that's kind of, something I used against Toronto as my rationale for picking Boston. But I just think the Jets have more firepower up front, and I think, Kyle Connor, a guy I didn't even mention. So I just think they got more firepower, but I think the Blues are playing so well as a group right now that this thing's going to go 7. But I am going to take Winnipeg. I honestly think it's just whoever had home ice I'd probably take in this series. I think this is super, super evenly matched. I would almost go as far as saying it's the most evenly matched, but you guys, I think there's a certain Pacific Division series that you guys might say might be just as even. But yeah, I'm going to go Winnipeg. Why not get a little bit of a differential going in our group here? I think we've pretty much picked the same winner, and yeah.
Variety's the spice of life. Since you alluded to
back to Nashville let's do Nashville.
Yeah,
Dallas.
okay. Nashville, Dallas.
Is it who they play the winner of, and then we can.
True. Okay. I've got Nashville in this. I just don't really see Dallas, I don't really see Dallas winning this. Nashville's just too stacked. They're another team though, like Winnipeg, that sort of struggled and maybe underperformed from what we're used to. That being said, though, they've got so many guys that can bury the puck. Rene concerns me a little bit. We know, he's been really hot in some years, and he's gotten them to the Stanley Cup final. He's also been really cold and not very good, and you've had a couple first-round exits. You had a second-round exit, that kind of stuff. So I think for me, if Dallas is going to have any success, obviously Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin are going to have to show up and put on a show, but also Ben Bishop is going to have to step up big time and outperform Rene at the other end. And if he can do that, if Bishop can do that, then Dallas really does have a shot. I've got Nashville in 6. Oh, shit. I've got Nashville in 5 on this one. I'm sorry. I just think, I seriously, I think the blue line's too good. Roman Yossi's one of the best puck-moving defensemen. You got PK Subban, who's an absolute ass to play against. He literally is that guy that you dread playing against every game. I think the offense is a lot deeper with Nashville. And, Nick, you sort of alluded to the home ice. You basically just gave Winnipeg St. Louis to home ice. That's also a huge thing, playing. And Nick, you've been there, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe, I'll pass it off to you. But I feel like that building is just too freaking difficult to play in, especially for Dallas. And I don't think Dallas is building, because this is the first time they've been in the playoffs since 2016. That building doesn't really, to be fair, I don't know a whole lot about Dallas's building, but it's never been a building that I've been like, oh yeah, I don't want to play there. Whereas Nashville's literally on the other end of the scale there. So I'll let you take it from.
Yeah, I think Nashville is really positioned well in this series. I'll take them in 5 here as well, actually. I just think Nashville's got way too much going on right now. First of all, they got tougher. Now, this is a team where you typically think of them like the defense is going to carry them, right? We all know the top 4, with Ekholm and Ellis and Subban and Yossi, who Dan, the last 2 Dan talked about. But this is a team that's got a really good forward group, and they made themselves tougher and deeper at the deadline. One guy, I've talked to Kevin about this off air, but I think a lot of people talk about Barkov maybe being the most underrated or not the most talked about guy in the league, where maybe he needs a little more praise and attention. Victor Arvidsson, boys, he is nasty. I don't know if people really realize how good of a year this man is having. Just a guy Poyle locked up for super cheap long term, just to spite everybody. Just an unreal player. Guy had 48 points in 58 games. He had some sort of injury. Forget what the specifics were, but he missed a little bit of time. But the man had 34 goals. He played 58 games. Imagine that guy's output over a 58-game season, and that Jofa line with Johansson, Forsberg down the middle, Johansson, obviously Forsberg, and Arvidsson. I mean, that's a pretty lethal top line. A lot of people talk about, well, the Stars have Ben, they have Sagan, and then obviously they have Radulov. But I mean, I think the Predators have a significant advantage on defense. The Nashville forwards are even tougher to play against. They're responsible. Adding guys like Wayne Simmons and Brian Boyle, who are built for the playoffs, is just huge. Dallas just does not have guys like that. I mean, they have vets on their team like a Cogliano, but I mean, Simmons and Brian Boyle are guys you want to go to war with and have in your bottom six come playoff time. And yeah, I mean, not to be cliche about it, we always talk about goaltending in the playoffs, but Rene, you know, we've seen him not rise to the occasion at times, but that Nashville defense is real good. And I think Dallas's forward group kind of tails off once you get past their top six, whereas I think Nashville's deeper. Tie in home ice advantage. You have Laviolette, who's an experienced coach, going against Montgomery, who will be in his first playoff. I just think Nashville pretty much has an advantage in every area, but I tip my hat to how well Ben Bishop has played this year, but I think Nashville is just going to be a little bit too much for Dallas to handle. So going Preds in 5.
Yeah, I'm kind of not sure where to go with this one because going into this show, going into recording, I was leaning towards Dallas just for whatever reason because like you guys talked about, it's really hard to trust Pekka Rinne. He has struggled mightily in the past, and I feel like he's been bailed out a number of times that have sort of hidden his struggles, even though his struggles have been well noted. But like even I know like Nashville is just so deep. Their forward group is so deep. Lines 1 through 4, they can roll out 4 lines that are just nasty and play balls to the wall. Play a good 200-foot game. And then obviously defensively, we've talked forever now how good their defensive group is. And I feel like, that just can overmatch what Dallas brings to the table. I don't really think that they bring the same amount of depth. They have Ben, Sagan, Radulov. I feel like after that, it's kind of just like meh. They have, oh my God, what's that defenseman's name? Phillips, set me up. Who is the defenseman on Dallas? Offensive defenseman.
Klingberg?
Yes. They have him, and then I don't know. And then they got Matt Zuccarello, who's coming back.
Too. I mean, Heiskanen, right?
Well, Heiskanen's a great talent, super young, hasn't been there before, but it's John Klingberg. That's it. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Anyways, Ben Bishop is a damn good goaltender. I talked earlier about, historically career playoff goaltending save percentages. Ben Bishop's up there. He's like top 5, I think. He's been there before. We've seen it firsthand when we played Tampa, when the Hawks played Tampa, not we. So I was starting to lean towards Dallas, but it's just really hard to bet against Nashville because they're just so deep. They've been there before, and they're kind of in that mentality where it's Stanley Cup or bust. So when you're playing with that, sort of urgency and not really desperation, but sort of a little bit like Carolina, there's just something there. There's another aspect of they're really urgent and this is kind of the time to do it because they're not going to be this good forever. And also, I'm going to Nashville in late May, so it'd be nice to enjoy that atmosphere, as Nick so highly spoke of. So that'd be pretty cool if I could do that. But anyways, I'd probably go Nashville in 7, not to jump on the bandwagon, but I think that's what I'm sticking with.
I mean, I really just think Laviolette here, as much as Ben Bishop's having a great year and Rene struggles. A lot of people just immediately, it's still that thing with Nashville where you're like, oh, well, it's all about the defense. Well, yeah, they still have a great defense, and Dallas obviously has some talent, but they're more offensive-minded guys. They're not really stay-at-home shutdown guys. But, the Jofa line is nasty for Nashville. And, Laviolette's going to have last change, and it's a guy in his first – Montgomery, good coach, right? He's already in the playoffs, but – and that team wasn't doing so well in the beginning, and you had the ownership calling him out and everything. So he's done a nice job with that group, keeping them calm, cool, collected, poised, focused, all that good stuff, and getting to this point. But I think the Laviolette factor. This is a man who's been deep in the playoffs several times. He's been in the Stanley Cup final with 3 different teams. Giving that guy last change and a super deep lineup, adding Boyle and Simmons to that group is a huge for the locker room, huge for the bomb six. They're going to play very heavy again. I mean, they can play way heavier than Dallas this series. So, yeah, I'm all about Nashville. I kind of want, in my opinion, it's a series I'm most excited for, so I kind of want to save the best for last. I know maybe Dan's favorite series here is Blues Jets, but I want to save what I'm going to call a bloodbath for last, and I want to start the last of the two series we're yet to cover. Let's quickly go through the top team in the West, the Calgary Flames. They will be the owners of home ice advantage against the Colorado Avalanche, who had a nice little surge to end the year. Looks like Gabriel Landeskog should be playing in the series, unless someone can correct me if I'm asshat wrong on that, but I believe he's going to be back. Calgary, this is a team where we don't really know what we're gonna see out of the goaltending, but we know they can fucking score. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And obviously, their blue line is, we just talked about a great blue line in Nashville, and Calgary's kind of right there with what they got on their blue line. So I don't know who wants to start, but I have a feeling this is going to be quite a high scoring series because I think the Flames are going to put up a bunch, and I don't think really Grubauer or Varlamov. I mean, I have a feeling you're going to see both of them in the series. Just a hunch, but I don't think they can really hold up. And I don't know what the hell we're going to see out of Rittich. So this is going to be interesting. Or hell, maybe even see Mike Smith at some point. Shit doesn't go as expected. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think this is a really good chance to see all four goalies play. I think, Nick, like you said, it's going to be a high scoring series. Calgary, both teams are over 3 goals per game. Calgary with the edge on that one. They also sort of give up quite a few. So like you said, I think it's going to be back and forth a lot. The reason why I'm giving Calgary the edge is I think Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, all those guys, I think they're going to be a little bit too much for the Avs to stop. They have home ice advantage. And Landeskog, we don't. You said he is coming back probably, but we don't know that 100% sure. If he does come back, that's obviously huge. If he's out, that's a big gap missing for Colorado. Giordano also is the one for me on the back end for the Flames that really stands out for me, and I think that's why Calgary, that building gets hopping. I think that they're going to be really really tough to play against, and I think that they're going to take this one in 6.
I'm really scared about this because the Flames are such a good team, but I like the issue that everyone's talking about is they don't have a true number one goalie. They haven't named their game one starter, so I feel like that's kind of a problem, not a good problem to have. But at the end of the day, like just the star power and the offensive firepower that the Flames have is just so strong. And Avalanche, they're another one of those teams that have sort of struggled at times throughout the year. Landeskog going down didn't really help them per se, but and there's also like a little element of drama at some point in the year. I don't know if that I don't really like to speculate on that, but there's just something about the Avalanche that that doesn't really make me think they're going to be a strong team in the playoffs, especially going against an uber talented Flames team. This has sort of been Johnny Gaudreau's coming out year in terms of like being a true, top 10 player in the league. This is just his first 100-point season as a NHL player. Sean Monahan's gotten better. Their secondary scoring is, I think, superior to Colorado's. And Colorado's goaltending tandem doesn't really wow me. Grubauer, he didn't really do much in the playoffs last year, so recency bias tells me, not to expect much. And then Varlamov, as a Hawks fan, he pisses me off because he never gives up a goal against us, but, he's just not the kind of guy who I think can, sort of steal games in a playoff series. So I guess the goaltending is kind of a wash in that sense. So I guess it just comes down to, your forward depth and your scoring output. And I think that, it's kind of an obvious pick that the Flames are superior. So I'd go with the Flames in probably 6 games.
Going Flames in 7. I think the Flames are about to get a big-time scare here. Their goaltending is a serious issue. Hell of a forward group up front. Monahan, Gaudreau, Tkachuk, Lindholm. Derek Ryan is a nice bottom 6 piece that not a lot of people talk about. That defense is really good. I think the bottom line is there's some serious goaltending issues in the series for both teams, but they have so much firepower up front. Obviously with Colorado, we'll see what Landeskog's effectiveness is like, but having Rantanen, McKinnon, up front is good for them. But I'd say the Flames are a little deeper up front. I think what it boils down to is, hate to keep using this again, but matchups, home ice advantage, obviously in the Flames' favor, as a reward for having the West being the West top point getters. But I think at the end of the day, when you have two teams with goaltending issues, it's how can you take pressure off your goaltenders, and I think the Flames are just a little deeper at forward, and I think they're going to play better defense in front of their goalie, and I think Rittich/Smith will face far less shots than Grubauer/Varlamov, and I think the Flames are poised to probably score more goals and home ice advantage, but I do think the goaltending is a serious issue for Calgary, and I think they're going to get a scare here because they've been great all year, but Colorado's been playing really well going into the playoffs. So I'm actually going to take the Flames in 7. I think this one goes long, but that's what I got for that one. So I will go Calgary, but I really do think they're going to get a shot in the ass here, and maybe it'll be a wake-up call for the next series. But, it's just hard. I really would want to say like Flames in 5 or 6, but their goaltending really, really makes me nervous. And I mean, Pepsi Center, I don't know if it's really known as being like one of the tougher buildings to play in, but that place is known to get pretty rowdy. And man, if some shit goes haywire with the goaltending with the Flames and you're playing on the road and Colorado splits, this could be a series real quick. So I don't think this one's going to end as quickly as some of the others that I think will end in short succession. But let's end it. Let's end our show tonight. Let's save what I think is this is the playoff series I'm excited for most. It's going to kill. It's going to make me sleep deprived, but I'm all here for it. We have the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights, a playoff rematch from last year. It was a great series last year. Big news for the Sharks. Erik Karlsson was able to return for the final regular season game, after spending a couple stints on the injured list there for San Jose. Vegas, of course, acquiring Mark Stone. Man, this is going to be a fucking wild series. I'm really excited. I think this is the one I could be wrong, but we might get a little bit of disagreement here. But I'm sure the Sharks are, wanting to avenge last year's loss. Jumbo Joe, how many more cracks is this guy going to get at it? They're probably rallying around him. This is going to be really fucking interesting because Vegas was playing okay, but since they got Mark Stone, they've been real good. So you got a team with San Jose who's got Burns on the back end he's in contention for another Norris, and you get Karlsson back, but at the same time, is Martin Jones a guy who can outduel Fleury? Really, really interested to hear your guys' perspective on this series, which is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be just fucking insane.
Yeah, you sort of asked the killer question, if you will, who's going to be better, Jones or Fleury? And as far as I'm concerned, I'll take Fleury every day and twice on Sunday, sort of thing. I just don't really see. The numbers that Jones has had have been very, sort of average, especially in terms of playoff numbers. Fleury is a proven champion, went to the Cup final last year, obviously, as we know. I think they're itching to get back. Both buildings actually are damn near impossible to play in. They match up really, really well. You mentioned Burns and Karlsson, but, San Jose's been struggling a little bit. And Vegas, as you mentioned, Nick, after they got Stone, I just think the offensive firepower that Vegas has is going to be a little bit too much. And I'm going to take Vegas. I can't remember how many games I had. I think I had it. Yeah, I had Vegas in 7. I really do think that this is one of the series that's pretty much guaranteed to go 7. I feel like I seriously, I feel like it's going to be so hard for both these teams to beat each other in their opposition buildings. It's going to be hard for Vegas to win in San Jose, and likewise for San Jose and Vegas. But you can slice and dice this however you want. When you look at like your key stats, one team's better than the other, and then it goes the other way. So this is going to be goals per game is 3.5 for San Jose. Goals against is better for Vegas. They're under 3. Power plays in San Jose's favor, but the penalty kills in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. So it's like, who the hell do you pick? I think it's going to come down to goaltending. I've said that like 3 different times tonight because that's usually what happens in playoff hockey. And with that being the case, I just don't see Martin Jones, being quite as good as Flower. So, Kev, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. However, I'm just not all that scared by San Jose. Like, I know they're a great team and they played well, very well the entire year, but just for whatever reason, they don't really, do it for me, especially going up against Vegas, who I'm just super high on Vegas. I think just the way they're coached is very conducive to success in the playoffs. They're coached the way they play playoff style hockey 82 games a year, and they have a roster that's built perfectly for the playoffs. We saw that obviously last year, and then they added to that this year with Mark Stone, who's like the second coming of Marian Hossa. He's such a good player. And then Max Pacioretty, who's kind of an unknown in a little bit of ways, but he's also just a very good player. I'm going to honestly go Vegas in 5. Like, I just don't really.
Wow, that's
coming in hot.
I think San Jose would make some real tough decisions if that happened.
They definitely would. Pedro DeBoer's probably gone for 1. I feel like that'd be a knee-jerk reaction.
5, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And that's not to say that they're not going to be close games, because I mean this could be 5 overtime games, but it's just, I think when it comes down to it, I just really like what Vegas brings in playoffs in particular in this series. Like, I just think they're better built, probably more than any other team in the playoffs for playoff hockey.
Yeah, I think last year was kind of like, obviously they are calling themselves the Golden Misfits and everything, and was kind of a young group kind of having fun. Some younger players who, obviously they weren't like entry-level guys, but they were guys who were still pretty young in their career who they kind of just needed to change the scenery. Things go well. Now you look at this team, and, yeah, they maybe still don't have a number 1 defenseman, but this team is bonded even closer as a unit. They have another year under their belts together. Then, as I alluded to with the forwards, being kind of young, you still have all those guys. But now you add in some really good fucking vets. You got Mark Stone in there. You got Paul Stastny, and you got Max Pacioretty. Those 3 guys weren't there last year, and they still beat San Jose. And I hate to say it for San Jose, but they got another year older. You add Erik Karlsson, but Karlsson not being 100% is a big fucking deal. It's a big fucking deal. And Travis Yost, one of my favorite hockey follows, he tweeted out today that actually it's from Kevin Kurz is who he quote tweeted. So he works for the Sharks with the Athletic, and he said, unless DeBoer is playing games, looks like Donskoy and Radil are your game 1 healthy scratches. So that means the San Jose 4th line is going to be Haley, Melker, Karlsson, and Gaudreau. So, unfortunately, not Johnny Gaudreau, but Gaudreau.
Freddie Hockey.
Yeah. No. Rocco Gaudreau or whatever. I can't think of it. It's Goodrow. He's a nice little player, but needless to say, Vegas they might have the best 4th line in hockey, right? I feel like Vegas has a lot of mismatches here, where in the sense that, San Jose has a lot of guys that can put the puck in the net, but I will die on this cross. I think Vegas has better 2-way forwards. Especially when you have Mark Stone in there. A lot of veterans. Even guys like William Karlsson are very good defensively. Riley Smith. This Vegas team hounds you. They are relentless, 200 feet. They forecheck, they back check. They're just nasty, and now they have even more talent up front with their forward group. I'd say San Jose probably has a better D corps, but like I said, Carlson not being 100% is a big deal. I'm gonna say that San Jose's top forwards they're really good, but I just think Vegas is deeper at forward, and until proven otherwise, Marc-Andre Fleury is a better goaltender than Martin Jones. So, even with all that said, DeBoer is a very similar coach to Gallant, and he expects a lot out of his guys. Another relentless team, two really tough buildings to play in. The Sharks have the home ice advantage. I think this is a recipe for 7 games, but I'm surprised I can't believe we all picked the same team, but I'm going Vegas in 7. Vegas, I think, just for all the reasons I said, I got to go Vegas in 7. That'd be a tough scene to see Jumbo Joe lose in the first round because, this could be it for him. I know the guy loves the game and everything, and, you'd hate to see it for even a guy like Pavelski, too, who's been through a lot with that organization, and, hell, even Couture, who's been there many years. But, I just don't think San Jose's deep enough at forward. I just think Vegas presents a lot of matchup problems. That's going to be real difficult for San Jose. San Jose's got to go up 2-0 in this series for me. Because if this is 1-1 going to Vegas, Vegas is going to – I don't see Vegas losing 2 at home. I find it more easy to believe that San Jose could lose 1 at home than Vegas will lose 1 at home. So I think San Jose needs to get this to 2-0, or else I'm going to be even more confident in my Vegas selection. If this thing – they got to win 1. And I know a lot of people say, you got to go split on the road, but I think the pressure's on San Jose to take care of business at home because I think Vegas is playing better right now. You got to take care of home ice if you're the Sharks because you got to win 3 out of these 4 games at home because you can't expect to go and win 2 games in Vegas. That's not a recipe for success, in my opinion.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Shit, that was fun to talk about.
Yeah, I think we ran through them all. Kind of a lengthy show, but a lot of talk about the lottery was exciting. Obviously our Chicago fandom has us a little more amped, but pretty crazy. The chips didn't exactly fall where most people expected them to, right? So I'm sure some Colorado fans are upset, and Kings fans are probably just even more depressed, like Dan said earlier. A couple New York market teams are going to pick 1, 2. The Blackhawks, how are you? Number 3. Up from 12. Quenneville lands in Florida. We got some exciting playoff series, so we're excited for Wednesday night to kick off the best thing in sports. I don't know, Kevin, Dan, you got anything to add, or should we close?
Are we going to give picks before the playoffs start? Are we going to give some Stanley Cup picks?
Yeah, you want to do a little Stanley? Yeah, we should. You're fucking right. We absolutely should. So the puck this week is me not saying our Stanley Cup. Not establishing the fact we were going to do our cup picks, so that's on me. Sorry, but sure. Let's do. How about this? I'll let you guys go. I want to actually think about. I feel like Kevin, you might have. Let's start with Kevin. I feel like you might have a pick ready, but let's do matchup, winner, and how many games the series goes. Keep it simple.
All right. So my Stanley Cup champion is. Hold your tomatoes. Don't boo me. My Stanley Cup champion is the St. Louis Blues.
You're disgusting. Get the fuck out of here.
That's why I told you earlier, Dad. I'm like, I know for a fact that we're going to have one pick that is not going to be the same.
I do have St. Louis going to the conference final. I think St. Louis is going to be a little bit better than Nashville. Kind of segueing into my pick, I'm going to be predictable. Say Tampa Bay. I just think they're kind of like they're like a younger version of San Jose. It's like, if not now, then when? And this is like the year. They were filthy in 2015. They ran into a really good Hawks team. They need to get back over that hump. And I think they take care of business. I'm going to go with a Tampa-Calgary rematch. I know that's like really like, oh, you're just picking the 2 best teams. To be fair, I could easily see Calgary getting knocked out by Vegas. If they do knock out Vegas, I could definitely see St. Louis that's my Western Conference matchup, Calgary-St. Louis. I could see St. Louis going in as well. But I'm really rooting for Calgary. They're my team in the West. Kev, I know you like them. I like them a lot. So I'm really hoping that they can string some stuff together, because seeing Gaudreau in the Cup final would be pretty tremendous. But yeah, I've got Tampa and Calgary. Tampa in 6 for me.
I also think because before the season started, I predicted that the Stanley Cup champion would come out of the Central, and I also threw out the Blues as a very likely candidate. And I hate myself for doing it, but I got to write it out because it's looking like a decent pick, even though I kind of hate myself.
No, it is. It definitely is.
Okay, so you got the Blues winning the Cup, huh, Kevin?
Somehow, yeah.
And who are they beating? Who are they beating?
The Tampa Bay Lightning. You're gonna call me an idiot.
All right,
but it's gonna happen. I have said before that I'm
curious.
I don't think the Lightning are gonna lose.
I'm curious why you think they're gonna overpower Tampa, but
because I just do. It's like a gut feeling. I can feel my plums.
All right, here we go, folks. Last but not least, coming out of the Eastern Conference Finals, I swear to God, I will never bet on you again. I will never believe in this organization. If they don't go this year, they just won't. Okay, they just won't ever win the Cup with this core. Tampa Bay Lightning are going and winning the Stanley Cup this year. It's happening. Okay, Vasilevsky is an animal. He's going to win the Vezina. Kucherov's the league MVP. That D-core is nasty. It's deep. This team plays both ends of the ice incredibly well. They can shut you down. They can stonewall you, and they can light you up like a Christmas tree. They won 62 games. They remind me so much of the Blackhawks when they were the best team from start to finish. This is Tampa Bay's fucking year. It's fucking going down. And they will defeat, in 7 games at Amalie Arena, the Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh man.
Vegas is back. An expansion team going to the Stanley Cup. Or I guess not expand, but an expansion franchise going to the Cup in its first 2 years. I know the defense is maybe they don't really have that number one guy. And so I would love to pick Calgary, but I just don't believe in the goaltending enough. I think that's an understandable concern. Love that forward group. But yeah, I mean, I think the problem with Calgary, biggest thing with Calgary is they're going to have to play the winner of San Jose Vegas. That's just the nature of this format. I do think Vegas is going to beat San Jose, as I talked about earlier. I think that's going to be a tough series, but I think the way Vegas can play 200 feet and with Flower, I think they got enough to get past Calgary. And I just think between having Flower and I really just think adding Stasny and adding Stone and adding Pacioretty to an already fucking dynamic team is just fucking huge. I mean, all Fleury has to do is play anywhere near the level he was at, and I think it's actually not as difficult of a road as people think. But, I mean, Tampa's been great all year. It's really hard to bet against their top 6 and that D-core and the way Vasilevsky's playing. I think they have elite players at every position. This is their time to shine in the Sunshine State, so give me Tampa in 7 against Vegas. Heartbreak City in Vegas, but that's my pick. I'm going to go Tampa Vegas. So we'll see if Tampa shits themselves. I mean, it's very rare. You know, a lot of times you don't see the team that's the best all year go on and win. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. So Tampa Bay it is.
All righty. Well, there we go.
All right, boys. Thanks for joining, folks. Thanks for listening. Be on the lookout for some content on letmebefrankblog.com. That's just with a B, no E. Check out our Twitter at GWTF_podcast. That's GWTF_. Oh, I fucked that up, boys. Everyone just etch that out of your memory. It's GWTF podcast _. Sorry, a little confusing there. And at LMBF Sports. So make sure to follow us around, and we will be chiming in throughout the playoffs with an episode per week and giving our analysis. So this is Nick for Kevin, for Dan. Thanks for joining us this week.
See you next week, fellas.
Hopefully I don't look like an idiot, and I probably will. So
Yeah. We're gonna get old takes exposed if people care to add us at that account. So peace.
Peace.